a subsidiary of IDH Holdings. Welcome, Dr. Benson and Dr. Odutolu. I'll stop my sharing my slides. So thank you so much. Dr. Odutolu, are you there?
Thanks for that very for the introduction. I think when we go into the discussion, we will be able to draw in from these experiences that you have mentioned, and welcome everybody to this webinar. Thank you so much.
Dr. Benson?
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam. Thank you for having us in this program, and thank you for the initiative you have taken to bring a subject matter like this to the public. And thank you for having me. I think we shall have a good discussion, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saz. So my first questions, like I said, thank you all everybody in this webinar. Please drop your questions as we go ahead. So I have some few questions to ask before I start taking the questions and the comments of the participants. Okay, so the first question will go to Dr. Odutolu. And you're a strong player in the non-government organization space. So I would like to know, what do you consider an effective board?
Thank you so very much, Obi. And this is a very, as Obi has emphasized several times during our presentation, this is a very important topic. And this is a very important service, that we can render both in the government space and in the private space. My experience over the years has been within the non-governmental organizations, community banks, microfinance bank, and trustees of, school associations and, church and other associations like that that requires the services of directors, to work for them. If we look at it, the 7 things that you mentioned, I mean, we all know that it's more than 7, but we have just looked at a sizable number of what we can discuss within an hour and 30 minutes, to bring up what makes someone effective as a director or as a board member. Coming directly to your questions, an effective board is a board that's able to deliver, on the mandate of the organization, that's able to guide that organization to be able to meet its needs, and attain the vision that it has set for itself. Out of those 7 key and very important, things that you mentioned, I will just limit myself to 3 or 4 and go deeper on what you have said. I believe Dr. Benson will take over the rest and maybe bring in some things that are peculiar with the private sector, even into the discussion. You mentioned commitment, and I actually break it down to just say availability. You have to be available. The time set for regular meeting attendance is the hallmark of a consensus director. Is the hallmark of a consensus director. You are there. You are always there to be able to contribute and make contributions. You have a passion for what you are doing. I know in some parlance we have, boards that are set up just to meet statutory needs, just to tick the box. That's quite different. A board that is effective is one that is not just ticking the box, but is going to, be able to perform all the strategic functions that you mentioned, to be able to keep the organization within the framework of the law. What is the law saying? What are the requirements? Are you filing it? You are filing in your tax return as when it is due, right? Are you following the laws, the Company and Allied Matters Act of 2020 has some guidelines for who can be a director and what you need to do to be an effective director. Before, it just used to be something you just say, okay, but now you are obligated to perform those functions, and you are liable. If something goes wrong with that organization, you are liable. So the first thing I want to say is the availability. to be at the meetings, to participate, to contribute, and make sure that things are going in the right direction. And it takes passion for this to happen. I will tell you that I've been on the board of FAPIN, what as a member and as a chairman for close to 12 years now. I mean, this is my third cycle, and after this I retire, completely and finally. I will tell you that I only missed one meeting in the last decade, one meeting, one general meeting, and one committee meeting. Tells you how importantly I hold being present at meeting. It's critically very, very important.
That's great.
I have an experience also when I was on the board of a community bank. Like I'm living in the UK now. Between 2005 and 2008, I was living in the UK. And I was a member of that board. Because I knew I would not be able to attend this meeting, I resigned. I resigned because you just have to be at the door. You have to be at the table. If you are an effective board member. I made the point earlier on, karma requires you are obligated, to do some things. If anything goes wrong, you are liable. So if you are not going to be able to participate, you don't put yourself in jeopardy in a situation where, what's agreed on at that meeting, is taking that you are part of it.
Yes.
So that's why you have to be there, all the time. I'm not saying there are instances where you may not be able to be there for reasons, but you have to participate. The other point I want to make is that, being at the board meeting is just 3 hours, or at most 4 hours, is the preparation, the groundwork before it. People go to board meetings, they are not aware of what they are going to discuss there. They've not looked at the agenda. They've not read the minutes of the last meeting. That is not commitment, right? You have to, I take it that I would say if I go for a meeting of 3 hours or 4 hours, I will have taken almost 24 hours of preparation. If I have questions before the meeting, I call the secretary, I ask questions. I clarify what are the action points that were at the last meeting, and all this, I made that clarification. So commitment is also attending the meeting and preparing for the meeting and make sure that you also contribute on the floor. The other thing I want to emphasize from what Toby said is what he said, bravery. I cover this as courage and confidence. You are not there, you are there, let me just digress a little bit and talk about board composition. Board composition essentially might be, people who know this, who have the knowledge of the subject matter being about 30%, and the other people are coming from different walks of life. People are coming from law, from the background of law, coming from the background of accounting, coming from the background of their community service, coming from the background of special, people that they represent. There are people that represent the disabled, there are people that represent women, there are people that represent geographical zones, within the country. There are people that represent the industry where I was for a long time, people that represent people who are living with AIDS, and things like that. They have to be at the table, and when you are there, that's why courage and confidence is important. You speak up. Speak up for the group that you represent. Speak up for what affects these individuals that you are representing on the board. And it's important that bravery comes into this. Some of us are shy naturally, but here you are among your peers. You feel free, and that's why. This is where I've served. When people are coming on the board afresh, we have board orientation, so that they are familiar with the people who are there, both in terms, it's not only presenting slides, you also have social activities that people gel together. You're going to work together if the life of that board is 4 years, you're going to work together for 4 years. So you must as well come together socially to be able to, acclimatize yourself to yourself, know yourself, know your bad days if it's possible, put on a call to your colleagues and straighten that out. But speak up and exercise your, you brought in Obi later when you talk about strategic, thinking, strategic control, strategic monitoring and all this type of thing. The board members think ahead. You are not thinking of today alone. I mean, today for regulatory purposes, but you're using performance and stuff there, but we're also thinking of the future. Sorry to say, to mention it, but Professor Akisheta is on this board, on this meeting rather. We serve together on the board of APIN. Prof will remember when APIN was just HIV/AIDS, but we said, no, this cannot be the entire life of this organization. There are some other things. So they moved to public health. They moved to, some other things, so that if this donor says today, I'm tired of providing funds for you, but because they have diversified, the organization continues to survive because we were thinking ahead. We were strategic, in our thinking. One other thing that Obi mentioned, which she called emotional intelligence, these are put together as, respect, truth, and candor. I put all this together, respect for peers, people who are on the board with you, respect them and have open dialogue with them, open culture of dissent. There are times where we disagree. We can disagree and not be disagreeable, right? We disagree on the issue. And at the end of the day, perhaps we get to the point where we have to vote on an issue. And this is very important. When you discuss an issue and you come to the conclusion and you vote on something, it's binding on you. It's binding on you. And, in some places, what divides the board is that, oh, my view is not taken. It's not about you. It's not about our individual egos. We've discussed issues before that I am of a different view, but at the end of the day, once we agree with it, I mean, I actually took this practice from, other management side. If once you have made that decision, it's binding on you, and just continue with it, and you don't continue to muse about, oh no, but I said different thing. I told you this. That's not the issue. The issue is that this board, this group of people, 7, 8, 10. Decided this is the way they want to go. And I think we should all, there was one thing that was mentioned, which I a little bit disagree with Obi, is experience. Experience is important, but the experience is not everything. Right, that's the 4th point out of the 7 that you mentioned. I want to talk a little bit about. Not knowing the subject matter of what the organization does not put you as a disadvantage in any way, because we come from different backgrounds and we contribute all these our different, abilities, to make sure that the organization works well. Part of the experience, what I've always seen and what I've always promoted, because after some time I became a board chairman in 1 or 2 places, 2 places actually. What I've done is that you have these boards mixed up. People who are old, not old in terms of age, old in terms of their experience in the boardroom, to people who are just coming in. And the reason is very clear, because you want to begin to build capacity for the future of the organization. You bring people who are of less experience, you bring them into the room, they learn over time. I want to say also, for the purpose of this meeting, that the second board that I was a member of was actually chaired by a former managing director of Liver Brothers, late now, Mr. Apidogun. That was where I learned a lot about how board works. I was on that board for 2 to 3 years. It was the board I was referring to that I resigned because I was living, outside the country. But those 2 to 3 years were just very good for my learning about how the board operates. And apart from the orientation of members that I mentioned earlier on, there are also several opportunities that organizations can use to develop and strengthen their board, doing like, board diagnosis, board audits, board effectiveness assessments. These are all learning processes, and this also strengthens the organization. I believe organizations like Obi's organization who perform these functions and be able to help strengthen, the board of other organizations by this. I want to stop there because I don't want to monopolize the work. Give Dr. Benson time to respond to his questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was a lot. That was very key and deep. Yeah, you said availability, preparation. Preparation is so key. You talked about truth and respect, courage and confidence.